Originals episode 13, Crescent City. This episode was really, really good. It was cool to see the interaction between Elijah and Celeste. I guess it was more or less towards the end of the episode, but it was cool to have that, sort of interaction between them where Elijah knew that, Celeste was herself. And when he basically revealed it, that's when she kind of, revealed the fact that she has a plan and her plan is revenge and she's been acting this plan out for a very long time, and she's been really smart about it. She's been bringing back people, not just who are powerful, which is what I initially thought. She's just bringing back people who are just really powerful witches and warlocks, and the last guy's case. But she's bringing back people who have a real serious connection, who are not only powerful, but they have secrets that they hold that could, tear the originals apart. And it was really cool to learn that because when we found out in this episode that the one of the witches that Marcella sees who is alive is actually the witch that was shown in sort of the flashback scene. It was kind of cool to get that because I want to see what happened in that story. What secret does she have that could tear them apart? And I'm hoping it's more than just the fact that they were trying to get the Klaus's dad to come in and scare him away from the city. But I feel like there's a lot more that they were hiding than just trying to bring him in, because obviously it failed in the end. But either he came to the city and it did scare Klaus away for a time, or something else crazy happened, and obviously they killed her off. So maybe it didn't work, and she was trying to get an upper hand on them, and they just found a way to kill her off without being stopped by her witch power. But I'm excited to see how that plays out, because obviously they wouldn't have brought her back if we weren't going to find out what crazy secret she had. And she may or may not get to tell Klaus and kind of screw over Rebecca and Marcel. But I'm definitely excited to see how that plays out. And then they have the other witch who's I guess she would be the oldest in a sense compared to Celeste. But people know her. Like Kieran, he knew who she was when she walked up to him outside of the church, and then she put the hex on him. And I was wondering, why was she so mad? Why'd she, basically hex him at the beginning of the episode? Because he seemed, compared to, other people, he seems like a good guy. And it turns out it's because, he, in a sense, did side with Klaus and, the vampires. Because, he was the leader, or, one of the leaders of the human faction. So he kind of had to play this weird role where he couldn't just, help the witches out. And obviously he didn't really want to help the vampires, but that's kind of why he couldn't just help the witches, because the vampires are kind of like Klaus. They're really powerful, and especially with Davina, there's really nothing they could do when all the stuff with the harvest was going on. And Davina is, of course, more interested in helping Marcel than she is other witches who were just trying to kill her off. So he couldn't really do anything. He was kind of locked in this position. But this witch, she harbored this anger for him, so she hexed him. And he wasn't cured. Klaus was trying to cure him, and he was gonna do what he does and try to threaten the witches, which he did with Sophie Devereaux's niece, who came back to life. And of course he screwed up being his normal angry self, and he got stabbed with that knife, and so now he's been captured. Rebecca was also captured because the werewolves, or some of the werewolves at least, made a deal with Celeste and the other witches to capture Rebecca. And I'm just curious. It feels like there are a lot of different plot lines that come into play here. Obviously, they all kind of tie together into Celeste, resurrecting these other witches. And I believe, and I can't think of her name, but Sophie's niece, I believe she was resurrected because the last guy died, and Celeste was kind of able to shift his power onto her. And she's clearly been brainwashed, because in the end of this episode, she does kill Sophie off, which I thought was really interesting. I never would have expected them to actually kill off a character, at least not again so soon. But as far as I could tell, at least that's obviously how they played it. Sophie does look dead. I mean, she had blood coming out of her eyes and her nose. I'm pretty sure Sophie has been killed off from the show, and she's basically been replaced by her niece, which does suck, because I thought it would be a much happier dynamic with her niece coming back, and they would kind of work together and figure out how to bring Davina back. And I thought initially I thought she came back to life, so maybe there is something to what the witches were saying about the harvest, and maybe the other girls would come back in time, but it was really just Celeste brought her back, and I don't know why, but maybe she did it to kill Sophie off because she was really the only witch who was kind of helping in a way. She was sort of helping Marcel and the other vampires. So they brought her back, and then at the end of the episode, all four of the women are kind of walking towards the camera. So they have their plan, and obviously Celeste is the leader, and her main plan is to get revenge on Klaus because of just him being him and him causing her to die, and him just being a horrible person in general. So I'm excited to see next week's episode for sure with Rebecca and Klaus being captured, and I'm excited to see how everything else plays out. Haley found out that she was supposed to be married to this one guy, and he mentioned some of the infighting and how that was kind of how they sort of separated in the first place, her clan. But I'm curious to see how that plays out. I'm sure it'll play out in future episodes because obviously the werewolves who made the deal, they might have the curse broken, and she wasn't really talking to anyone at the party, but she might recognize at least that one main guy who was like the only person they showed outside of the guy she was supposed to marry. So if they did break that curse and he's human and he's just walking around the quarter, maybe she'll see him, and that'll kind of lead to the fact that he's one of the werewolves that kind of broke up his own faction and kind of betrayed them just to get the curse broken. But it does make sense because they have zero ties, as far as they know, to the originals outside of Haley giving birth. So it does make sense, and I'd love to see just how that plays out with Haley, kind of going through the fact that her own clan kind of betrayed her new family, who she doesn't really like, but at the same time she does, because obviously she's in love with Elijah, and she's getting closer to Rebecca because Rebecca is like, she's trying to be on her team, but at the same time Rebecca kind of has to go her own route because of some of the crap that happens to her from Elijah and especially Klaus. So I'm excited to see how that plays out in the story, but for now I'm just curious to see what is the real plan. Like, what does Celeste plan to do? Because I doubt it's just dagger Klaus and Rebecca. So I'm curious to see if she has some permanent plan that could actually kill them off, and I'm curious to see how Elijah and Marcel actually team up to figure out where they are and how to actually save them. But comment below, let me know what you guys thought of this episode, favorite parts, least favorite parts, and if Sophie is actually dead, do you guys think that was a good choice for the show, considering they just killed off a character I think 2 episodes ago? Or would you guys have rather have seen her actually survive a little bit longer, or just survive permanently? So comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.